Keep Right with Ralph K. Ginorio, a true face of tyranny. The video opens with a pretty young woman kneeling submissively, looking up with a desperate gratitude as she received bits of Dorito chips onto her tongue from the hands of her dominatrix-by-any-other-name, smugly self-satisfied Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. This obscene caricature of the sacrament of Holy Communion was staged to emphasize psychosexual themes of lesbianism and sadomasochism. The amazing thing about this video is that it was voluntarily staged by the governor and a young influencer. They were each proud to be involved in such a project. And Governor Whitmer's later apology notwithstanding, she wouldn't have done this if she didn't want to, if she didn't have something to say with it. They reveled in their sarcastic parody of the Eucharist in particular, and of Judeo-Christian morality in general. Hubris is the sin of overweening pride. In Greek tragedy, hubris so offends the Olympian gods that it invites nemesis, an utter and calamitous doom. The Genesis story of the Tower of Babel, sees a prideful humanity sundered by a confusion of our common tongue for the sin of wanting to build a tower so tall as to look God square in the face. Nemesis is not merely Greek. Governor Whitmer suffers from hubris. During COVID, she rigidly enforced lockdowns which harmed Michiganders. At the same time, her own husband conspicuously violated these regulations. He was never punished. Why? Because the governor, her family, and her friends are special people to whom normal standards do not apply. Whitmer's contempt for Christians, for traditional families, and for conventional standards of conduct were conspicuously on display in this video, among other places. The look in her eyes was nothing less than triumphal. She, the ultimate girl boss, was violating the taboos of the evil patriarchy and scandalizing the puritanical Judeo-Christian bitter enders. Her video proclaimed that her secular postmodernism had succeeded at deconstructing Western civilization. Would that this was an isolated incidence of self-indulgence by a single narcissistic elected official. Would that Whitmer's hubris was uncommon. Tragically, it's not at all unusual. The common thread between Whitmer and others is a sense of aristocratic pretension. Governor Gavin Newsom and his COVID restrictions destroyed the lives of countless Californians, yet he hosted an intimate dinner for over a dozen intimates at the French Laundry restaurant. How exclusive. Nancy Pelosi supported closure of so-called non-essential businesses like barbers and salons. Yet, she had her stylist give her a private coiffure. Alexandria Occasio-Cortez supported stringent mask mandates and social distancing, except, of course, when she and her boyfriend vacationed maskless in Florida. Andrew Cuomo famously cherished his own family while sentencing countless senior citizens to a premature death by utilizing senior housing to treat COVID patients. Their crime was that these senior citizens, these residents of New York State, were neither wealthy enough nor politically well connected enough to protect themselves. Many of these examples date from the pandemic restriction period. This is because it was in the midst of our unprecedented overreaction to this crisis that the true nature of many leaders were revealed. Rules for thee and not for me was the operating principle applied by sociopathic elites who genuinely saw the common people as disposable human resources. Today's American progressives join with all variants of socialists, from European social democrats to national socialists and fascists to communists, in seeing independent human volition as a problem to be solved. Every problem within our fallen individual natures and our naturally evolved societies is seen as a fault of excess of the exercise, should I say, of free will. To these leftists, common humanity, the great unwashed masses, the hoi polloi, all scuttle about on the surface of our world, seeking a fulfillment to their needs that they are each incapable of achieving on their own. Control is the left's solution to every human ill. If only the smartest and most virtuous people, of course themselves, had the ability to impose an unprecedented control over everyone else's thoughts, words, and deeds, then humanity would harmonize like an orchestra becoming more than the sum of its individual musicians in concert under the directions of a master conductor. The left asserts that society can be perfected. Euphony would replace dissonance, and every individual would be rescued from their personal limits by absorption into the collective. In such a delusional worldview, people outside of their exclusive group have no agency. They cannot save themselves. They must be saved by their betters, the socialists, the beautiful people, the best and the brightest themselves. Is it any wonder that such self-appointed saviors harbor a deep contempt for those common human beings who they deem to be little better than livestock? Is it any wonder that Gretchen Whitmer stands smirking as if she were a secular goddess, receiving homage from a grateful worshiper? Through election, Ms. Whitmer, in her own mind at least, has apotheosized in her leftist ideology, government is divine, and she is one of its messiahs. Her hubris deserves nemesis, as does the hubris of the leaders of today's Democrat Party. Government is not God. Elected officials are public servants. Free will is the answer to the human equation, not the problem with it. Our Constitution has made our Judeo-Christian Western civilization more than the sum of its parts, because of and not despite our individual liberty.